Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneur Athlete Podcast. My name is Mark Burik, and here on this podcast, we talk to entrepreneurs who are turning their fitness, athletic, or sport passion into a business. And hopefully, we give you some great tips to build your own business along the way. Now, I'm the owner and CEO of Better at Beach, one of the most, if not the most successful beach volleyball education companies in the world. And I treat this as my personal university where I get to learn from other people who have done it, are doing it, and in all different ways. So if you are the person who's open to learning, you want to know different ways, want to know what other entrepreneurs are going through, then you're in the right place. And today, we have somebody actually who takes our Better at Beach classes, and we met and we got along right away. And he himself is a gym owner, but a very special type of gym. So I want to bring him on. His name is Matt Jimmink, and we are in Southern California, and he's got his gym, and we're going to learn all about him and his history. So Matt, what's up, man?
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
It's great. Thanks for the little chat off camera. I know you said that you weren't one of the sport people growing up. So you didn't get to do the organized sports thing, but you said around 18, you wanted to start lifting, you wanted to start embracing fitness and everything. So take me to just the beginning of that journey, not coming from the organized sports background, but still getting heavily into fitness, so much so now that it is your entire life.
Yeah. Yeah, that beginning was just, as an 18-year-old, just kind of going like, hey, I want to get strong, like a lot of guys hit some point where they're like, I want to get strong. I want to learn how to lift. So yeah, just going to Sports Chalet and buying a bench, on sale as an 18-year-old, and a bar and some plates, and set them up in my garage, and just starting to go to town on that. And
was it the skinny bar? Like with the screws? Or
No, it was an Olympic bar,
you got a
actually.
real Olympic bar your first set?
Yeah.
Oh man, I went with the 300. My parents could afford like the 275, $300 all around thing where like everything moves and is all clinky and the bar's too skinny. But you
You're always waiting for it to fall apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it was, I think they had it was like a deal. It was like one of their spring deals. And I don't feel like I paid that much for it, actually. And so fun fact, I still have that same bench. Actually, I've saved it, and it held together. So it was sturdy, and yeah. So yeah, I just got that and just started trying to learn some stuff on my own. And, that was back there was some information on the internet back then, not like there is now. So, just tried to learn a bit as I could, and find things on the internet as I could to lift. And, yeah. And then I actually progressing beyond that to where like I actually thought of it possibly being a business someday.
So how did
later on, after getting married, and
did you think right away that you were going to get into a business? I mean, at 18, I definitely wasn't thinking about what business I could do. I was just trying to get $20 to get a pizza.
I think I kind of, my dad had his own business, and I ended up working with him in that business, doing analytical computer software. So I think that the concept was there that I could have my own business. I don't know if I don't think I ever thought of it as being necessarily related to like health and fitness. But yeah, I don't know. I've always kind of I'm one of those people that I'll take instruction really well, but I don't necessarily like having someone tell me what to do all the time. So, I want to learn, but I don't necessarily want someone telling me how to do my job every day. So, I have worked, jobs, and for other people, it's not like I've always been always been an entrepreneur and always had my own business, but the spirit, I guess, was there for it. Like I had an inclination towards that for sure, like even as a young person. So,
but so the opposite of me, the way that I grew up, where my parents were definitely that place between blue collar and white collar, I guess, because it wasn't like manual labor, but my dad was an indoor telephone technician, so he's a variety of an engineer, and my mom was a nurse. But financial discussions, business discussions, never. At one point for like 3 days, I decided to do a lemonade stand, but I got bored and wanted to play sports again. So,
right.
it's interesting to see that you had that introduction into knowing, oh yeah, you can of course do your own thing, be your own business, and that you went there. Did you have any
Yeah.
jobs before you started working for yourself? Was it always versions of working for yourself?
So I worked, with my dad, which is sort of like working for myself. This is the family business. And then from there, no, from there I went and I worked. I worked for a solar company for a while. Doing like sales stuff. Um, I, I've told my wife, I'm like, I don't know why I've worked so many different types of jobs, but worked for a solar company. I worked for our local fairgrounds for a while doing events, and actually was the livestock superintendent there because that was something I did do as a kid, was showing livestock. So like sheep and cattle, and so that
What?
was a whole other, a lot of people are like, wait, well, you did what?
Yeah.
But yeah, I was involved in that. So yeah, worked there. So I worked a couple of other jobs, and then I ended up also working for another solar company and a car dealership too for a while. I was like involved in like commercial vehicle sales, and so a lot of them had to do around promotions and sales and
Mm.
stuff, I guess. Um, so I definitely got the chance to experience some of that in like working for other companies, and I learned from that. I mean, there's definitely things I learned from that that absolutely applied to when my wife and I decided to start our own business.
That's something that I'm envious of, because at no point was I trained in sales. And so whenever I
Mm-hmm.
hear, one of our best hires is Chad for Better at Beach. And I hired him because I heard that he had, I forget if it was a high end car, maybe Porsches, that he was a salesman for. And I go, you've already had legitimate sales training. I have zero, just podcasts and everything. So I go, you're going to crush this. And it turns out he's not a great in-person salesman, like at all. But what he does do incredibly well is write, edit. He crushes anything graphics and artistic, and he can talk to anybody. Just
Yeah.
making that transition into a sale, I think for him, it's a little more of a long-term thing, because he hated doing the cars. He was just like, I'm in a situation where I'm trying to actually sell something that people don't need, and I know they don't need it, and I know it's not necessarily good for them. So he's
Yep.
enjoying like the
I
volleyball part, where he's just, he goes, this is something that people actually want, and it'll be way better for them in their lives. Of course, having a nice
yeah.
car, depending on whatever situation, yeah, that can add a lot of benefit to your life. But there's a pricing model there where it's like, yeah, is it really? So was it
I
those those sales pieces of training through your life? If you could summarize those three keys into what you learned from your
mm.
other sales opportunities, that you're like, thank God I had this, because I know 1, 2, and 3 going into a business that I now own and manage completely.
Interesting. Um, and some of it, I think, is things I learned not to do too,
Great.
because yeah, it was just. I can totally relate to what you said. Your guy, as far as selling people something, feeling like you're selling them something they don't need, because you kind of get caught between that. Like you need the money, and that person maybe shouldn't even be buying the product you're selling, but you're trying to convince them to do it because you need to make a sale. So
Mm.
it's kind of like this conflict of conscience there, that you don't have in, like you said, with the volleyball or with what I'm doing, of like, yeah, that doesn't really matter. Like this is going to improve this person's life regardless of like their circumstances. So that was one thing for me. I think I definitely learned at some point, is like, I don't want to sell something anymore that it could be questionable whether or not it's a good thing for that person to
Hmm.
buy, because you really have to be, I think, to be good at selling something, regardless if you're a good salesperson or not. um, I can always tell when someone believes in the product that they're selling, if they know that it's good for them, and someone who's just trying to convince you to buy it because they want you to buy it. And for me, I'm not I just couldn't go to that place of pretending that this was really good for someone if it wasn't. Like I'm just too honest, I guess. I don't know. I care about the people, and and that's probably why I ended up doing what I do now. But I needed to be able to like tell them honestly, truthfully, your life is going to be better. Or, in the case of something like maybe with solar, it's like, yeah, your bank account's going to look better after you do this, like be able to honestly tell them that. So believing in what you sell for sure was like super important. I think another thing that I really learned that I was thankful for. Well, one, have you ever heard of ABC
Oh,
with
like
sales?
always be
It's an
closing.
acronym, ABC. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
I
the
hate.
always be closing.
I
And
just took a sales
so,
course, and they're always like, get rid of that. Ask questions, and if you ask enough
yes,
good questions, somebody just tells you what they need, and then you decide, yeah, we have that. Yeah, we can fix it
right,
for you, or no, we're not what you're looking for, and then you get
right.
such good credit from them because they have this immense trust in you with your ability to say
Hmm.
no and push you away, so that they might just send all of their friends to you just because of that, instead of
Right.
that weird pushy sales stuff.
So I would say I absolutely agree with that. The ABC to me was not so much to constantly be trying to close the customer as it was a mindset of like, because for me, I like, again, I'm good at having the conversation with people. I can sit there and I can talk with something. We can have a great time. We can be friends. And at the end of the day, they may just be like, okay, that was cool. Well, let me think about it. And then they walk out. And I didn't even give them the option maybe to be able to purchase something that was going to benefit them that day.
Mhm.
So for me, it was, I think there's a balance depending on your personality too, of like, there's some people who are very scared to ask for the close, to just ask for the sales. Like, hey, is this something that you feel like is going to be of a benefit to you? I've laid out the options for you. At least give them the opportunity to make that decision that day rather than assuming that they'll just do it at a time that is going to be best for them, because people are also great at procrastinating and not taking action that's good for them. So for
Yep.
me, it was more of a change of my mindset of like, you know what, I don't have to force somebody to buy it. I don't ever believe that I can force someone to buy something. And I wouldn't want to. It's more of like, hey, give them the opportunity to make a good decision for themselves today. Let them know, like, if you want to do this and you want to start now, I'm ready to help you in that. Because I
Yeah,
can't
and get to
avoid
the
even
finish
that
line
question.
that day, right?
Yeah.
Like, be able to close it that day. You
Yeah.
were there uh, at the class. One of our guys was like, "Hey, I know you got 5 used balls for $100. I'd
Mm-hmm.
really like to do that." And he goes, "I don't have a bag, so I can't take it today." And I know that this guy's just dying to get more reps when he's at home. So
Yep.
I didn't say, next time we'll bring a bag. I ran, I sprinted, I found a bag so that he could buy it today so that, before
Exactly.
his next class, he can go out and he could serve 100 balls or set 100 balls.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people don't realize that urgency. And something that my brother told me a long time ago was he goes, the people who say, I'm going to start on January 1st, those are the people that will not stick to it no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you want to make a change, it's because it's so important to you that you're going to do it that day. And if you don't give them
Yep.
the opportunity to make their change, or buy something that they need or want that day, then they are going to put it off. And people are
Yeah.
terribly good at procrastinating to a fault. And we know this from
Yeah.
athletics. People just keep putting back the fitness. They say, oh, yeah, I'll watch film tomorrow. Wait a second. You could have been a day smarter tomorrow. Like, oh, I'll go through that lifting course next month. I can't really make it. All right. Well, now you're going to be a crappy lifter for another month of your life.
Yep.
And you have to, if you have something good to give people, you have to give them the easy opportunity to do it now, immediately, and
Yeah.
make the commitment, not just to you, but to themselves. I think people
Well,
miss that.
and I would ask you, because I know I see this, is I'm sure you can tell a lot of times when someone goes to sign up, like for your classes, someone that procrastinates and drags it out and eventually signs up, how likely is that person really to progress, with training and get better at their skills than someone who, when they first talked to you, they knew already they want to do it. And they're like, yep, I'm signing up. Let's go.
Mm.
I mean, do you see that? I know I see that with ours, where it's like a lot of the time, it's the person who comes in and is like, let me do this, let's go, that actually is the one that probably does it long term and really progresses.
To me, that's the easiest, but I think there's that value in if everybody doesn't know what the customer life cycle is,
Uh-huh.
where they know you exist and they know that there's a problem out there. And then I think the next stage, and I'm not fully versed on it, but the next stage is like, this problem is affecting me. Now I'm looking for a solution. And
Yeah.
then the next stage is they know that you are the solution. And
Yeah.
so some people are interested in volleyball and they're like, it's cool, it's fun. And then some people get to the point where they go, no, I really want to get better at it. Like, it's
Yeah.
so much fun. There are people that are doing it. We had one person that went with us for a year because she had really never played sports, and her company outing was repeatedly their CEO loved volleyball. So her company outing every year was like a beach volleyball intercompany tournament. And she was so
That's
embarrassed the
fun.
first year that she was just like, nope, I'm not doing that again. So I want to be good in quality by the time that next company retreat comes around. I thought that was one of the funniest
That's funny. So it's like
meets.
it's almost like a social shaming to go and get better at something.
Yeah, she's like, I want a promotion. So if I could like hammer it in somebody's face, maybe my boss will promote me.
Hey, that sounds like a fun company outing to me.
Yeah. And then you got to be there. You got to be there when they're ready, and
Mhm.
able to have that when they're ready. So I
Yeah.
think there is that moment where people turn their lives around. It If we talk about addiction or alcoholics or even diabetics and things like that, when it gets that bad, people all of a sudden turn their life around in terms of diet, in terms of exercise, going on walks every day. And everybody, it's not usually that serious, but everybody has that point where they go, this is something that I need and want in my life. And for some people with fitness and sports, it's a realization after a couple cycles of, man, if I don't play or if I don't get out and exercise, I become a really depressed, slow,
Yeah.
almost angry person. And I know that 100% about myself. Like, the fact that I went to the classes that you were there and I went to another one the week, I go, if this doesn't exist for me, I called 15 of my friends to go out and play pickleball. Nobody
Yeah.
could. So the fact that we had a class means that I can go exercise, means that I'm better for my wife. I come back and I'm like a happier person.
Yeah.
And so when somebody gets to that point, that's another realization that they might have when they go into your classes in your gym of, when I'm fit, I'm a better employee, I'm a better boss, I'm a better person, I'm happier. And you just got to be there for that moment of
Yeah.
that realization.
That is something that I learned too in as far as sales, and that was I think I learned that the most probably during doing auto sales, was that there were people who would come in and they'd be like, oh, I need a new truck, and something would happen, and they did need it, they needed it for their business or whatever, but just things just didn't work out for them to do it at that moment, and then 2 months later, you want to kind of be able to have a way to stay top of mind. And that doesn't mean that you're harassing them with a call every week, but whether that's emails once in a while, that like, oh yeah, that's right, if I'm gonna get a truck, I'm gonna go get it from them, or with the gym, it's like, if I'm gonna start working out, they're the ones I'm gonna call. They've been really nice to me, they check up on me to see if I'm still interested, like, and so it's never harassing, it's always like, hey, we're still here for you if you need help. So yeah, that's a good point. I like that, just being there, because life circumstances do change for sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
This is, I don't know why I just thought of it, but uh, you ever dated somebody for a while and you knew the guy around that was always nice to them, kind, was never hitting on her, was never flirting, was just there and chill, and then you break up and you hear like 2 or 3 months later, now they're dating, and you go, that's a
Just
good
biding
point.
his
Like,
time.
if he
Yeah.
would have, yeah, but if he would have been creepy or something at that
Yeah.
time, she'd been like, nah, this dude's a dirtbag, I'm not going with him. But if you're just around and kind, and you are there, you are present in the area. If we take that from like the crazy, unfortunate, I feel bad for anyone who's still single, by the way. It's a miserable life. But you're there, and you're acting kindly to that person and to everybody around them, and as people can regularly see that, so you are the next best option when they're looking for something. But
Yeah.
if you push too hard when you shouldn't, you're going to get a real bad name,
Yeah.
or when that person's not ready. And if you're not around, you're just forgotten about. And around, I think, in terms of business or marketing, means that you're always putting out posts. You're always reminding people that you are a coach, that you have a gym. You're giving helpful information. And that's a big deal. And I just talked to my brother who owns Tradition Coffee Roasters in Hawaii. He's had an email list, I think, of like 500 or 600 people. He's never, and I'm on his email list, he's never emailed anything but a receipt. And I was like, these are the people who are the most, they want to hear from you the most. They literally gave you their emails. You know, they're buying from you. They want to talk to you. They want to hear about their awesome coffee that they just got. So why aren't you talking to them? And so this week he actually sent out his first email to his email list after 2 years.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, man, like, way to go. That's the start of it. And if you send that once every week or once every 2 weeks, some cool info, that's where you stay top of mind. Exactly like you're saying.
Yeah, because sometimes people won't even read that email, but they still see the title of the email. They see it there and they're like, oh yeah, that guy. Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah, that's funny.
I remember back with mailers, I remember them talking about how you wanted to create your mailers to even be, I guess, kind of almost like you could think of as the title of an email, to where they I think it was left hand, right hand, trash can. Basically, in the time it took them to take it out of their stack from their inbox in their left hand, take it to the right hand, drop it to the trash can, they're getting reminded of who you are and what you do. And maybe there's more detail to it, but it was, so it's left hand, right hand, trash can.
I like that.
So I know we're not as much in the age of mailers as much, although it is interesting because I feel like there's always a little bit of backlash sometimes against the direction we're going, and everything's so digital now. I've even noticed sometimes I'm like, ooh, something in my hand that I can look at. It's tangible. What is that? You know, I find myself looking at bulletin boards and stuff a little bit more because it's not a screen. It's something tangible, you know?
Yep. We're doing that. I was talking to you at practice about Gracie University, and the fact that they gave me a calendar, a sheet, a paper, and you'll see this next week in classes, of their classes and the schedule, so that I don't have to open my phone. I don't have to go into the app and open it up and see when the class is. I'm making eggs. And I go, tonight there's 8 p.m. Yeah, I don't have anything to do today. I'm going to go do that. And just because they have paper calendars at their place that I can just put on my wall or on my fridge, I'm so much more likely to go to the class just because I forced it. You know, they gave me the opportunity, but I allowed them to be top of mind by putting it in my kitchen. And so we're going to start embracing that, like making sure that everybody's got a calendar of events so that if you are in the middle of your day and you go, I finished all my work, I feel like exercising. Oh, there's a class in 2 hours. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's good. I think the term is, and I might be using it incorrectly here, cognitive dissonance, where it's like if everybody else is doing one thing, you do something that's different, that makes people kind of stop. Like it pulls them out of that moment of that day of like, that's different. And they're like, so it's like paper calendars and things like that. It's like everything's digital now. You know, it's kind of the thing where you do it and your people go, oh, that's different. Wait, what is that? Let me take a second look. And it works. It does work. Yeah.
I think those handwritten, they don't have to be handwritten letters, but something that I really want to do this year for anybody who has bought one of our camps, it's a big purchase. It's a big investment. They decided to take 8-9 days out of their life to come hang out with us. Mm-hmm. They deserve a letter from us, and I really want to connect with them. So I think on holidays, I'm going to start typing it up, not handwriting to everybody. That would be a bit insane, but at least giving them a paper letter that says, hey, thank you. This is what my family's up to. Hope you're having the best holiday and really appreciate you. You know, something like that. Everybody looks at mail and you hope that something cool is coming in the mail. But so rarely do you get anything cool in the mail.
Yeah.
God, it sucks.
Yeah, when you see an envelope with your name like handwritten on it and stuff, and you're like, oh, this is something personal from someone. You're like, it's always the first thing you open up. You're like, what is this? You know, rip it open. And yeah, cool. It's so cool. I was going to ask you about with your longer term camps, have you found that the clientele of those is the same people as do like your classes and stuff, or is it kind of a little bit different? Or
It is. It's the same people. It's
okay,
just geographical. So the people
okay,
that hang out in the classes, they're just around our classes, wherever our studio is, and we're
yeah,
gonna try to open another studio, if you want to call it, in Florida, and then hopefully in Chattanooga and a few other beaches in places that we don't have it. But
interesting.
no, it's the same kind of
So it's basically people
usually
that want to level
intermediate to
up.
low advanced.
Oh, okay,
So I would say that maybe 60% of the people that come to camp really are the ones who 100% want to improve.
mm-hmm.
40% just want to play as much volleyball as they can in 7 days,
Gotcha.
and get out into the
Yeah,
sun. But they also know that with our camps, we are improvement centric. So you're coming
right.
to us not really to get wasted every night. We have beers, we have wine at night. We get you some margaritas in between practices, but we're not getting hammered. It's it,
Yeah,
there's too much volleyball really to be able to do both. And one of our guys who
right.
he came and it was such a cool story because he was like, I just want you to let you know that no I'm not joking. I'm not exaggerating. I really think this is the best week of my life. And he goes, it set a new standard for what I thought a vacation was. He goes, I thought a vacation was going,
Nice.
getting lobster red, sitting in a lawn chair, and just like drinking until I forgot everything. And he said, this being fit, making friends, like forced making friends, because you're on a court with 10 people, then you're in a tournament with 30 people.
Right.
So we're kind of forcing social situations. And he goes, connecting with people and using my body to be athletic outside. This is my new
Yeah.
standard for a vacation. So he was like super thankful. And I was just like, oh man, yeah, it's cool.
That's so cool. So they're looking for an experience really with it is what a lot of them are. Yeah. Okay. And I like you like bring that up the community around it too, because it's just, I think people do. That's one of the things we see with the gym that really is. And we talked about this the other day about how the product really is like for us, it's the coaching and it's the community. Like people want to come there, they want to get better. They know, like for us, they know they want to know the coach has got their back. They're going to help them move well. They're going to get stronger, more fit. But then the other part of it really is it's the community. Like so many people are like, hey, even on the days when I'm feeling kind of lazy and like I don't want to show up, like, but I know my friends are going to be there, and like they're expecting me to come work out with them. I'm going to show up, and yeah, it just makes such a difference because that community to just support you in striving to become a stronger, more resilient person, and knowing that they're doing the same thing, like that, just there's a bond there, and so yeah, I like seeing that with your guys stuff too, just noticing how like the people there, like the relationships get developed over time. And I played with some of the guys after the class and stuff too. It was just we just hung out and had fun and kept playing,
Yeah.
and yeah, it was good.
It's what solidifies it. It's for me with the jujitsu stuff. Uh, that's a little bit what's missing for me right there, right now, because you partner with somebody for like a half hour, but there's no real after time. So I haven't had any real community events. I haven't made friends. I've sparred with some partners, rolled with some partners that I know, dude, I want to partner with you next time because we can push each other. You're my size. It's
Yeah.
definitely different than throwing around like a 120-pound kid, you know. um, so now there are some people that I seek out and I try to remember their names, but it was tougher really because you're only there with one person and
Yeah.
they don't force you into anything real social. So it's interesting. I think that might be the one thing that's missing from that jujitsu experience that I really
Interesting.
focus on with the Better at Beach stuff.
Yeah.
But I want to talk. We've spent so much time here, and I want to talk really about your business, your gym. So you started. You said you started lifting when you were 18. You got kind of hooked, and I want you to talk about what you told me off camera. You started getting into CrossFit. You got CrossFit coaching, and
Mhm.
then from there, fill in the blanks from lifting to CrossFit coaching to I want to start a business. How did you get to that path?
Yeah. Yeah. So, started coaching. It was more of just kind of for fun at first, really just, I mean, a lot of CrossFit coaches would probably tell you that, yeah, it's a hobby. Like it's, it's tough just as a CrossFit coach in most places to do that as a profession. But I knew I always liked teaching and being able to like help people improve themselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, as we started to do that, yeah, as I was coaching and just trying to improve my skills, and I was realizing that I would have people that would move, and they seemed to move well. The form looked good, and I was very attentive to that of like, okay, where can we adjust, your form and get you just right. And still, I would have people that would they would just get stuck. Either they would get, they'd sometimes be having like injuries or just recurring pain. They're like, oh yeah, I can't front squat today because, my mid back is just, I don't know what's happening. It's spasming or whatever. And I'm like, oh, you move so well with that. So just different recurring things that seem to happen pretty often. And I didn't have an answer for it, which was frustrating to me. So I was like, okay, I got to understand, like, why do these things happen even when it looks like the form is perfect for some of these people? And so I ended up connecting with another coach that I now have mentored under my wife and I both for the last, I think it's 5 years now, Julian Pinot, and his company Strong Fit. And so we connected with him because he really, when we like first started to kind of see his stuff online, it really resonated with me as he explained the importance of people being able to find muscle tension rather than just a specific position. So they called it tension over position, which takes a little bit more to like help people, like when you're coaching them, to actually find that, like, hey, do you feel that, rather than them just kind of looking at you for approval and being like, are my elbows high enough on my front squat? Did I get low enough in the squat? Are my knees in the right place? It's like, and we start to put that back on them of like, well, what do you feel? And if you're like, well, my knees hurt and my back is like hurting, and it's like, okay, well, we're not doing it right there. But learning how to, help people to actually connect with really themselves physically, to be able to feel like, oh, I'm moving well or I'm moving poorly, regardless of what it looks like right now. If I'm in pain and every single rep it's getting worse, I'm not moving well. So we've got to fix that. And sometimes it's a matter of fixing the imbalances that they may have. All of us have imbalances, but sometimes it's a matter of just also helping them to, if our body, if all of this is the firmware, the hardware of the computer system, all the programming that we have from years of athletics and moving as kids and as adults, and if there were injuries that happened, that's the software of our body saying, oh yeah, when you tore your rotator cuff that one time, now when I go to swing at a volleyball, we got to change that because we got to avoid using some of those muscles because they got hurt in the past. You start to do that because you're recovering from an injury. The body doesn't always just switch back to doing it the correct way. So there's got to be some work that's put in to fix that movement pattern again. So anyway, long story short, he really helped us to really be able to see that and how to use like breath work and different types of exercises to really help people start to find that, so that they can then transfer it back over to what they love. So if it was CrossFit, they can go back over and start doing, clean and jerk, and like, oh, okay, cool. I'm not having the pain that I was. Or, for me with volleyball, a lot of times it would be the right shoulder, just stuff would start to happen after, a lot of reps, and it affected me in CrossFit too. So we took that and started to apply it in the CrossFit gym. And as we went along, we realized we kind of needed a space to be able to do things the way that we liked, or that we knew were going to work for how we wanted to teach and help people to move. And we had a friend, we didn't really have a space to do it. And we were kind of going like, man, can we set something up? Like we put together a business plan of like, and we had a friend, she had a garage gym already set up. And she was just like, you guys, she's like, stop messing around. She's like, just use my garage and start doing something. And so that's what we did. Like we started off there, started doing like assessments and a few personals here and there, but we really started with like a few small classes, and, just doing it part-time. Like I was still working another job, and, we just kind of did that. And I mean, really just kind of bootstrapped it, like just, you know, it was all word of mouth, you know, no advertising or anything really. And I just slowly started to get the word out. And right before all the COVID stuff happened, we had up to like 5 classes, you know, 3 times a week. So we'd have like 1 morning class and 3 evening classes, and it was getting busy. And we were like, okay, I think we're about ready to like move. And then that was actually, I left my job. I was like, let's go full time with this and just push it. And then, it was perfect timing. We literally did that, I think, January of 2020. So we decided to do it.
Damn. Sorry.
Yeah.
Dude.
So it was interesting after that, to say the least.
But garage gyms were like a hit at that point. I know the guys across the street from me, like, I think it's a couple of bros, like maybe 2 years out of a fraternity for sure from how they act. And I know it, like they'll be offended, fraternity people. I'm a fraternity guy. I know our kind, but they had people in there every hour. They were like personal training 1 or 2 people at a time every hour during COVID. I go, they pivoted nicely into a real small, tiny gym, but we saw people in there every single day. And I was like, good for you guys. Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was like the thing. It was like, okay, it's like, you know, I mean, I know you guys, I'm sure too. It was like, if you're providing a service, you know, in a situation like that, it's like people don't pay you to not provide them a service. So, you know, you got to pivot somehow, you know, and keep doing stuff. So, you know, we tried to do some video stuff for a bit. And as soon as we could do things, you know, in person, like we were like just whatever we could do. And slowly kind of got things rolling again. And, but it took a little bit, like, and that's the other part too. I think a lot of people, if they're not a business owner, didn't realize that it's, it's not just what happened that month. It's like, it's affecting you for the upcoming months too. Cause, you know, like we talked about being top of mind, it's like when people stop doing something and, there's so much regression that happens in that. So as a business owner, it's tough. It's not like your career gets put on pause and you just kind of resume it. It's like you have lost ground that you have to make back up. So,
and you also, it takes time, and there are stages that you have to go through. You have to build, and it's slow. You know, there's too many stories of these whatever venture capitalist type businesses that boom, they just blew up, you know, overnight successes. And I'm finally not extremely concerned about rent 8 years into this.
Yeah.
And I've been going kind of full time, you know, I've been playing pro full time as well. So that's been, now that I'm not competing anymore, I go, oh, okay, I wasn't really full-time on my business. It was just all the time I had left from playing pro. And now I feel like something different is moving forward and changing every day, that I know 100% if I had to practice and lift for 3.5 hours and then recover that day and coach a class or a private lesson, would have been no way that thing would have moved. And that's what I did for, I think 5-6 years. Was I was competing, lifting, traveling, practicing, and I was always upset that like it wasn't moving as fast as I wanted to. Now I realize, oh, I get it. That's why.
You were trying to work 2 full-time jobs at once.
Yeah.
That's really tough. And I know that feeling. I feel like almost everybody, because even just running a small business on its own feels like trying to do 2, sometimes 3 jobs at once. Because you're a coach, you're a manager, you're the admin person. It's, you know, taking care of anytime someone has a billing problem or whatever. Like it's so many different hats. It's so many different hats.
And just waiting, dude. The waiting for a help chat support person on any random app from any company, you're losing an hour and 45 minutes just in a typing help chat situation. And you're like, damn, that was a quarter of the day for the only employee that we have for a company. Now what? So if you're doing it on your own, guys, and you're out there, prepare to lose sleep. Either know how efficient you can be, invest early if you want to chuck money into it, invest early in great people if you want to go the money route. But if you don't, you have to give yourself a little bit of grace, but you got to grind. There is no doubt that if you want it to start, you got to grind. And especially if you don't have the money to just throw into various positions. That would be the fastest way. Now, if you've got a little cushion, like when I moved out, I think I had $2,000 in my bank account, literally. So if I didn't get people into my camp in California the first month, I had no money left.
Yeah.
There's a good thing about that. It's because you hustle. You're okay with, getting 3-4 hours of sleep, and you do it. That's part of the phase if you're starting a business without money. And you get so much accomplished during that time. It's just not sustainable for a very long time. That's all.
No. And I think one thing I've realized is for me, and I have to be careful of it, is that I wouldn't say I'm like, some people are like super high energy, like just pedal to the metal. I think from some of the stuff you were saying the other day, I was like, okay, you're more of that, like, yeah, let's just, go. But even with that, you can burn out. And for me, I'm definitely not to that just level naturally of like the kind of person who wants to just go all the time. Like, I feel like that's natural. And I find that for me, I tend to put myself in places, or at least I'll create a level of anxiety so that I can run at that higher level, because it forces me to do that and be like, okay, I gotta, it's almost like a way to find energy, which again, it works for a bit, but man, you start to burn out for a while. So it's, when I have to go to that level, I do always try to remind myself like, hey, this isn't sustainable. Like, you got to find a way to hand off some of these responsibilities, or maybe some of these things are not priorities right now and they can be set aside, because there's no way that you can continue to wear 7 hats. Maybe you can do 4, but yeah, it's like you said, you can do it for a bit. And at some point you start to just go like, why am I doing this again? I loved it. Yeah. It's like, because I don't feel like I'm loving it today.
It's just like lifting in my mind, where we have progressive overload, right? At some point, you challenge yourself to the edge of what you could possibly handle. Yes. But in lifting and sports, we know then you need a recovery day, or usually at least 48 hours for that muscle group.
Right.
It's just when the people who get hurt and who burn out and who then like miss a week of workouts is because they don't progressively overload.
Right.
They overload and build and overload and overload and overload. So they move out of the recovery. So if you are one of the natural crazy hustlers, you have to embrace what we know from sports and fitness, is that you gotta push, but then you have to recover. Your brain has to recover, otherwise you get stuck. And the same way that you can't max out in lifting, or your numbers aren't going up, that's the same exact thing, because your brain, you have a finite amount of creativity, the energy just to like problem solve, that's finite. So you have to reload on it in order to come up with a better new peak. And people don't understand that. They just go, and they think the longer they sit at the computer, the better they're going to solve that problem. And it's just not true.
No, but it's the trap. It's a temptation, because you feel like, oh, I'm already behind, I gotta, it feels contrary. It's like everything, it feels contrary to everything you're telling yourself at that moment. It's like, I just got to keep grinding and get more done. It's like, take a day off and you come back and you'll get as much done in one day as right now maybe you can get done in 3, because if you're honest with yourself, you're actually not getting that much done. Yeah, you're maybe running around stressed thinking you're doing things, but you're just not efficient anymore. And like you said, you need that deload period to just be like, okay, cool, like let's ramp it down, let everything kind of recover a bit and come back and get stronger, So yeah, that analogy, it does work really well for life, of just, yes, intensity. You get gains from intensity, but you can't hit the same level of intensity every single day. You've got to have those times to let the body rest. I mean, that's every professional sport pretty much has an off season. It's like, you got to let the body recover, and your physical and mental, emotional health are that's one of the main things we focus on with our clients is like they are intertwined. Like you cannot separate them from each other. You can't, at some point, yes, you can improve your physical health to a certain point, but if you're haven't addressed some of your mental emotional stuff that's going on, it will stall out. And vice versa, people trying to progress mentally, emotionally, but they haven't addressed their physical health, it will have an impact. Like at some point, I think of them as almost kind of limiting each other. It's like, yeah, they can get a little bit away from each other, but at some point, one, it can only go so far, and you're going to have to bring the other one up for the other to continue to progress. And I think you're seeing more and more of that now. People talking about that, and the research that's coming out that's really showing that's like the two are interconnected. And so it's a good thing to keep in mind for business too. Just you got to take care of yourself, both physically and emotionally, if you're going to be the most effective business owner that you can be. So
yeah, I want to talk to a relationship therapist and say that, is there validity behind the take a break? When some people break up, they're like, oh, let's just take some space, and get our heads right. I wonder if some people try to work too hard for too long and cohabitate for too long, where they know they're going to be better. They're going to come back with better ideas and better energy for the other person if they do have a day apart. That's something that me and Janelle discovered about each other was I need every few months, I want to just literally go camping for a night or two alone, without anybody, without any people. And it's not that I want to be away from her. It's just that I want my own space where I can't look at a screen because I'm out of service. I can't do any of this. And we've gotten so much better at, okay, this is the time. This is the decompress time, because when we come back, we're together. We're not breaking up, but the the available space actually works out, and it makes me a better person. And then I come back with better ideas and more intensity the same way. But I wonder if any relationship coaches or therapists out there have seen, prior to marriage or in marriages, if they say, why don't you guys each take a 2-day vacation away from each other? I don't know if that's advice that they give in that sector, but I know for me, it works.
Yeah. I feel like I have read that in on books about marriage, of that sometimes you just need that space away. Cause I was like, sometimes too, I feel like it's kind of like that, when you get in like a disagreement with someone and the emotions run high, you just need to create that space of like, hey, let's back off, let everything kind of simmer down a little bit, so you can kind of actually process what you're feeling and be able to bring the rational side into it. And not that you're always like upset at your spouse, but sometimes it's just things are going, they're the same. And you just kind of like, man, you just a little bit of space to kind of go like, oh, yeah, I hadn't even thought of it that way before. And it just, I totally agree with you. I think it's a great thing to just be able to have space to yourself, really without any outside distraction. There's so much input for us these days, like, we have a supercomputer in our hand, 24 hours of the day if we want it. And you can literally look up any subject. And I'm somebody who I love to research. So it's like, I have to tell myself sometimes like, no, stop, turn it off, and just
look at a wall.
Just
look at a wall for 5 minutes.
It's true. I have a doctor who's been helping.
Break. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh no, sorry. I was just gonna say, I have a doctor who's been telling me, he's been helping me with some stuff, and one of the things he really wanted me to do is be working on the amount of sunlight that I get. So I'm like, well, that's a cool time for me to just be like, I can get outside, I'll get my sunlight, and I don't have to do anything else. Just breathe. Screens are off, and so it's a way for me to do both at once, but it really helps to just kind of turn the inputs off.
Yeah. And people think that they're taking a break from their company or from their person or from whatever, they're taking a break, but they just fill it with other nonsense by scrolling and swiping. Mm-hmm. And it's like, nope, you still didn't have a break, because you just filled the silence or any problem solving or creativity with letting something else be creative for you. And people just got to get better at turning off the screens and shutting off the headphones. But not during this interview, if you guys are listening. We got a little more.
Wait till this one's done.
Yeah, then go take a walk.
Yeah.
So
oh no, go ahead.
I want to learn a little bit more. You were coaching, so you're in a coaching role,
Mm-hmm.
and then you wanted to teach the way that you wanted to teach, because you thought it was super beneficial for people, and you're very interested in it. Then you came up with a business plan, which is crazy interesting because I never came up with a business plan. I just had an idea, never wrote anything down. I was just like, this is what I want to do. And your first step was renting somebody's garage gym, or did they just
Mm-hmm.
allow you that space? And then as you talk about that, just guide me through when you were ready to get your own full space.
Sure. Yeah, so they just kind of let us use that to start off with, and then we eventually ended up, renting it, from them on an ongoing basis. And so I mean, for us, because, and part of the reason we did like the business plan towards the beginning was because we were thinking we might need to get like an outside investor to kind of help us, or someone to fund it and help us get started. And in the midst of that was when our friend was like, hey, rather than wait for all that to be perfect, like just start doing it and getting your reps in, just start coaching some people.
I like this friend.
Yes. She was really good. She really pushed us to, we'll be forever in her debt, that she pushed us to just start. So we just did. And as we did it, we realized like, okay, well, right now what we're doing, like it's working with our life, like the way it was. Like, yeah, I was still working another job, but it's like, okay, at this point, let's just do this. It's working. There's obviously some other stressors and stuff that come with like, okay, you can actually get an outside investor, and now what do they want from the business? And so, we were kind of wrestling with all that. As it got bigger and we got to a certain point, and which is actually kind of still where we're at right now. So we ended up, had another friend that had a larger garage space that was empty, that wasn't being used. And we were like, hey, you know what? It's like, we were kind of like, we wanted to make the jump to something bigger, but we weren't. Again, we're still kind of on the edge of like, how much of a risk do we want to take? Because some of those places are looking at like, okay, we're going to be in the red for a bit. Like, we're going to have to push hard to like even be able to make the rent on that place. Are we risking too much too quickly? And I guess I tend to be a little bit more on the cautious side, sometimes to my detriment. So, but I don't know that it was the wrong decision. We just were like, okay, this is a kind of an in-between space for us. So we rented their space, which is, I think, is about probably 800 square feet, which worked well for us to do like classes of like up to 10 people. Yeah. And, and be able to handle 2 or 3 personal training clients at a time, if we wanted to. So we did that and continued to grow into it. And that's the space that we're still operating out of right now. We've got like I think it's about 50 class members that we have like on an ongoing, monthly subscription basis. And then depending on the season, my wife and I are typically working with, I think for a bit here, I was doing like probably about 11-ish hours of personal training a week, which was getting to be a bit to do that. And I was also coaching classes too. So yeah, I did it for a bit for the money, but I also realized I'm like, I need to, like, right now it's slowed down a touch, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm just going to take this time to reorganize some responsibilities and try to figure out our next steps, which we're at that stage now of like, okay, what is the next facility that allows us to really maximize what we and the coaches that have started to work with us can do, because we are kind of growing. We're growing out of the space that we're at right now. So so that's kind of the next part of it. And my wife and I have also gotten certification to take the concepts and stuff that we're using already from our coach. They teamed up with the University of Indiana and are now applying this to training people with autism. So we're also, it's really, really cool program. So that's another reason too, we want to be able to kind of shape the space to be exactly what we would like it to be, because when you're working with people with autism, there are some other considerations to take into account for that. So, so we're branching into that too, which is exciting. There's just some different things there. They're kind of like the next steps of being able to kind of hopefully continue to push things forward and continue to grow.
I'd say for one of the things that popped into my mind as you were talking was the 11 hours plus classes. And I know so many people that would listen to this podcast are the athletes turned coaches turned, I can do this on my own for my business. And when you personal train and when you run classes, we did a really interesting experiment. It was an accidental experiment, but Brandon wore his Whoop for calorie tracking and calorie burn during a coaching session.
Yeah.
And then he wore it for one of his actual pro practices. And we found out that he burns more calories coaching than training. And a big aspect of it was how he was trying to, we think mentally, that you were trying to, because did you know that chess players burn a crazy amount of calories?
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's something.
I'm
It's
sure,
like
yeah.
it's like 4,000 extra calories or something when
That's
they're in
crazy.
competition
Yeah.
mode. And he was burning all of that. And he goes, when I'm coaching and training, I'm crushing myself, even though you don't feel it.
Yep.
If you're a good coach, you're constantly trying to solve problems and constantly trying to weigh emotions and keep everybody intact and engaged. And then you're
Yeah.
planning practice. So that's another problem solving. And then, like we talked about the finite energy, you don't have any more creative energy after working with your players to then say, now I need to lead the company and see what next steps are, see what's going wrong. How do I diagnose problems? How do I diagnose the technique that we're using?
Yeah.
And so I would caution everybody who is doing what you did, what I did, and coaching 4 to 6 hours a day, and try to batch that. If you do have those clients, find only the clients that can get with you on Wednesday morning or Wednesday all day, and then decide and know you ain't doing nothing else for the business that day.
Yeah.
Wake up the next day and let the creative energy recharge, and that should be your company day. But even the steady, I'll do 2 hours a day. Don't do that, because you're going to burn the creative energy that you need for the entire company, the entire enterprise in that morning. So if I were to
Yeah.
redo it, and it's nearly impossible for most people. So again, progressive overload, but as soon as you can, fight to get all of your personal coaching on one, maximum 2 days. And then all the other stuff, it's way more important that you're the CEO, that you're the company solving the big problems, not the technical, how do I get somebody to squat without winking problems.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And they're two different types of mental energy, and it just like you only have a certain amount to be able to give into any one of those things. And on top of the fact too that I'm not the greatest multitasker anyway. I'm a very much like I'm focused on this problem here, and it's so not only the energy, but it's just difficult for me to shift gears. So yeah, I 100% agree with that. It's if you're like you said, if you're a good coach and you're pouring yourself into your people, like it one session sometimes can be exhausting. I mean, you can have, for me, I can have one session with a client if I'm working with them through like as we're doing this and they're struggling with maybe like depression or anxiety, and like I'm trying to like help them work through not just the physical, but like, hey, let's actually just like I'm almost putting my energy into them to help them even get that workout in. Man, it's so intense. Like 1 hour can be a lot sometimes. And yeah, like you said, 2 hours of personal training in the morning can make it really difficult to be productive and creative for the rest of the day. It's really tricky. Yeah.
And then you should be following up. If you're like the best version of just a coach, I worked with a couple other guys on the pro tour. Now some of them are asking me to coach them now that I'm not playing anymore. So for the 2 hours after that, I was like, how do I make sure that they stay involved in what we did today? So then I sent them a whole rundown of everything we did. And I was like, hey, focus on that tomorrow at practice. Like, make sure that you're ripping the string apart on your blocks, just a random cue. But so now I'm still with them because I've coached them for the next hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yep.
Then I got to eat. Then I got to, sit down at the computer and say, shoot, what's there to do today? Like today, as we're
Yeah.
filming this podcast, I knew going into today is all my filming day, because tonight I'm going a recap of the qualifier. I'm here with you. As soon as we get off, I'm going to do another episode with Jake, and then I've got 2 YouTube videos to film. And I go,
Yeah.
the company's losing me for today. Like, I'm not
Right.
answering emails, I'm not writing emails, I'm not marketing, I'm not answering messages in Instagram. This is what I got for today, and I'm going to do it well. And I can't expect that I'm going to do something secondary to that.
Right. Yeah. You're the talent, and then tomorrow you're the manager again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. So next questions. You said you have your gym members on a subscription model.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other pricing models that you're using, and how did you decide on your prices? I think that's one of the hardest parts for people to start doing something.
Yeah.
And all they do is they look at everybody around them and they go, how do I beat them? And they usually go cheaper. And that's usually the
Right.
worst answer, because that person's struggling. And now you're putting yourself with less money and in a position where you're struggling more. But that's a
Yeah.
longer conversation. So what are your various pricing models, if you have various ones?
Mm-hmm.
And how did you actually decide on what number to put after that $sign?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, we have like a monthly pricing model. So it's like an every 4 weeks billing period. And
Alex Hormozy style.
yeah.
You want
So
to
it's
go
every
into
4
that?
weeks. And so I actually did not learn that directly from him. It was from someone
Okay.
else that had done some stuff with him. But yeah, it's basically it gives you that extra few days each month,
Yeah.
to
You get like
but
7% more revenue over the
yeah,
course of a year, because it just
right.
hits just slightly in front of, instead of the monthly, and it's actually
Right.
more predictable. It doesn't come on a different it does come on a different date. That's right.
Comes on a different date, but it's always like it's always the third Monday of the, or no, that's not true. Yeah, it's just every 4 weeks. So yeah. I don't know. It's but yeah, so we do that. We do allow people to, if they want to, we do have some packages where they can pay for like 3 months up front if they want to. There's a little bit of a discount with that. We don't do it too much. It's or like too much of a discount. It's more for them to be like, hey, I'm committed to this for like this amount of time. Can I just put my money down and I'm in for 3 months? It's like, yeah, cool.
Did you
So we
base
also
that
have
on
some packages
numbers
combined.
that you were already doing? And did you ever look back and say, and see the average ROI for each person? So like the average lifetime value. Have you ever looked at that again?
Mm-hmm. So you know what? I haven't looked at that again since we implemented doing that. We first started doing that. It's not been that long. I want to say it was since, it's been about 6-8 months now. And again, that's going off of some other people that we were working with that gave us kind of the advice to do that. And we have had a few people do it. The tricky thing with those is, and again, I don't have a lot of experience with it. This is going off of what I learned from them, is that you don't want to have everybody signing up for those, because then what happens is your cash flow starts to get, like, your monthly cash flow gets low, and you start, I got all this money in the bank, but you're forgetting it's like, well, yeah, but that's 3 months already if someone's paid for. So it's nice, and it gives people the opportunity to walk in and be like, whatever, I got a tax rebate. I want to make sure I put this into I'm investing in my fitness. I want to do this. Can I do it with you? You're like, yeah, I've got the option for you to do that.
That's funny. Some people know that they're not good with money, so they're like, if I go monthly, I'm going to run out. No, that's interesting.
Right.
Okay.
So it gives them that option. But yeah, to me, we haven't done it had enough people sign up for those specific options for me to be like, yeah, there's a better ROI on those, customers or not. We have a really good overall like retention rate. So, yeah, that's always been like really key for us. Like our average client value, I think like the average time that they stay with us, I'd have to go back and look, but it's a long time. We have a lot of people that have been with us for years, now that have, so anyway, so the different models we have. So we have the monthly. We have there they can purchase like several months, through like up to 3 months upfront. And then we have like combined packages where they can do classes and personal training if they want to.
Oh, nice.
Um, and then we also have a model, another for them too, where it's, and some people have done this where they not really interested in doing the classes so much because they want to just, for a lot of reasons, a lot of them, I think it's, for some people, it's a social anxiety thing. Maybe growing up, they just never felt confident physically or athletically. So going into a classroom setting maybe brings some stuff up for them that they're like, hey, I don't feel confident. And they're not necessarily against doing it at some point in the future, maybe, but they're like, hey, can you train me so I at least feel competent before I maybe go into a classroom setting? And then there's some people who just don't like other people and they they just want the one-on-one, training. They're like, I don't want to be with
Yep.
exercising with 10 other people. So for those people, we originally started with packages of like, hey, you can buy this many hours. But something else we set up that actually has worked pretty well for a few of the clients is it's basically like a membership for them for the personal training. So they get like, they say, hey, I want to do 2 sessions a week. It's like, okay, cool. Here's the 4-week, recurring, every 4 weeks you get billed. And with that one, because obviously they're paying quite a bit per session, I'm not going to, with classes, we don't do like makeup classes where like if they miss a class, like, hey, can I add a class, another day? But with those, like I would be like, hey, yeah, we'll try to shift it, find you another day to get that session in because they are paying quite a bit per session. So,
Yeah.
um,
So what are
but
those
yeah,
prices?
so those are the ones we
What
do.
are the 4-week prices?
So yeah. So the 4-week prices, for 3 classes a week, we have 2 options. We have a 3 classes a week or a 4 classes a week because 4 right now is the max someone could do with us. For the 3 classes a week, we do 140.
Hmm.
And then for 4 classes a week, it's 180.
Okay. Great.
Somewhat based off of the people around us, only in that I didn't want to be totally outside of, if everyone's charging $100 for a month and I'm charging 300, that might be too big of a spread. But we definitely, for what we do and like, for the product that we want to offer, the quality of the coaching, um, that we wanted to position ourselves as like, this is a premium product. And yeah, so in doing and get clients that are suited to that, right? So we're not necessarily we didn't necessarily want to have the clients that are like coming in, they're like, hey, can I get a deal? Can I do this? Can we discount this? Like there's a lot of extra work that goes into that. And
Yep.
it starts to become a numbers game where it's like, now you're just talking about volume. And for what we're doing, like we can't do that. Like we just can't take that many customers to where that even makes sense,
Yeah, volume is a model. People forget that as coaches and trainers, that volume is a model for big box gyms that have no personal touch. If you're a coach, the more athletes you have, the worse of a coach you are
Mm-hmm.
for each athlete.
Yeah.
And people need to recognize that because even if you're charging, so maybe you want to charge low to get more people in the door, right? Now you're able to bring more people in the door for a little while, but then you're giving them less attention, less energy. So you're
Right.
actually forcing yourself to put out a worse product. And once
Right.
you put out that worse product, then people go, oh, well, I could get a better personal training or smaller number class over here for
Right.
only 10 or 20 bucks more. And then you lose again in the long run.
Yeah.
So people got to stop thinking about numbers in the door. And instead, if you just, sure, you're going to sign up less people if you charge more, but you're able to give those people more. And then those are the ones that become like crazy super fans for life, and they will be your absolute references. They'll for sure tell their friends how great they are, and then you become scarce. You become
Mm-hmm.
like, no, sorry, I can't take on any more clients. And you're like, oh, and that kills some people. And then when there is an
Right.
opening,
Yeah.
then
They're
that's
sign up
fine.
right
They
away.
jump right away. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, I think one of the things that really woke me up to that was when someone asked me, one of the business coaches that we had used, they were like, would you rather be able to make an extra $5,000 off of 5 customers that you can really invest into, or an extra 50 customers that you barely will know their names and know who they are. And I was like, yeah, I want the 5 that I can invest into. Because as a coach, like, that's what I want to do. Like, I want people to see real results. I want to see people's lives change. And, not that people can't go to a, $30 a month boot camp and see some changes. They can, but that's not, again, like, I'm not looking to try to just churn people through. Like, I want to actually have those relationships with people and be able to feel like I actually really invested in them and help them to get better at what they're doing. So
yeah, it's definitely, for a lot of people, it's way more rewarding. If you're going to be there every day and you're a people person and those are the people that you want to talk to, it's just knowing names and being able to ask how they're doing and know what's going on in people's life. You're not only creating, number one, you're creating a great business if you charge more for fewer, but you're also creating a great community, like a tighter community. How some people have a lot of soft friends and there are a few people who got their 5 ride or die friends. A lot of times I envy the 5 ride or die guys, because that 100% these people have your back and they know everything about you. And so from a life standpoint, I like that style better.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's definitely me. I need to, if I'm gonna be friends with someone, I was like, okay, we're friends, like, and it's an intensive relationship, but it's like, okay, but like, like you said, they got your back, and yeah. And I think people do like to know that from their coaches. It's like, okay, cool. Like, this person is invested in me, and they really, like, if things are like you do, you what's going on with them, you're checking on them when they come in. Like, people, just even the silly, like, it would seem like a silly thing almost, of like, every time you walk in, I say hi to you by name. It's like, sometimes I think some people are like, well, yeah, of course, like, whatever, that's just a whatever type of, it's like, no, that's important. Like, people, when they walk in and they know the coach sees them and acknowledges them and like, hey, you're here, I'm glad you're, like, that means a lot. Yep. And that's one thing I've always appreciated with your classes, is that the coaches are attentive. They know who's there. And that's another thing we work with our coaches too, is like, make sure that you're touching like every person in that class. Like, don't just run the workout. Like, even if you don't necessarily have a correction to make, like, find something they're doing well and be like, hey, the way you did that specifically, that was excellent. I can see you took to heart, like, what we talked about last time. Good job. You're improving in that. Like, that's where it goes beyond just running a class. You're not just running a boot camp and say, hey, swing the kettlebell and run over here and do that. Like, you're actually touching each person and having an impact on not just how they move, but like, you're invested in them and they know it. So
we hammer that home. First names, like, you have to get first names. There's no way with a 12-person class that you shouldn't have every first name by the end of that class, especially since we're 70% usually repeats. You already got everybody. And that's something I learned in bartending from one of the most successful bars in the area that I grew up at. I started bartending. He goes, if you can remember somebody's name and you remember what they drank last time, and you have that waiting for them from the time they walked from the front door to the bar, I guarantee, first of all, they'll pay for it, even if they thought they wanted for something else. And they'll go, man, you remembered. How cool is that? So that was something that I got trained in early as a bartender, which is huge. You remembered something about them and their life, and you were ready and waiting for them.
No, it really is. They that personal connection, like, I don't think you can overvalue it. Like, it's just, it's so important.
Okay, Matt, I got just a couple more questions for you before we let you go. But one of them is, who or what is your customer avatar? So the person that you help, why exactly do they come to you, and what exactly are they getting?
This is when we've had to, like, wrestle with the big, because I feel like it changes a little bit over time. And it's slightly different, our personal training to our classes. Our classes, as we've gone, I think our customer avatar really has become mainly we have a variety of people there, but I would say probably about 70% are moms that are looking for a safe place to be able to um, feel like they can feel strong and healthy again. I mean, moms get, I mean, they're obviously busy with kids, so a lot of them are working also. And I think there is a lot of times too, it's like as that happens, and especially if they've had multiple kids, maybe never feeling like there is that chance for them to feel like they kind of got back close to where they were before having kids, as far as like physically, whether if some of our clients, like they were athletes before, some of them not, but just never. And a lot of times, and this is something that, and my wife, and we've have 4 kids, how she said that, yeah, thank you. Just how she felt there was a point in there where she felt like, wow, I don't even know if this is my body. Like, is this like, if there's almost this disconnect that happens. And so I think part of it, just with my wife really being able to relate to that, really helped a lot of these ladies to feel safe with that. But yeah, so they're coming a lot of cases either to try to get back to some level of, I'm trying to think of the word I want to use. It's not physical competence, because they are competent to move around, but like a higher level, I guess, maybe of like physical fitness and competence to where they've been before, so that they feel like they can go out and they can play with their kids who are like teenagers now, and like do stuff with them, and not feel like they're the first one to tire out, or the first one to be like, oh yeah, mom can't keep up. Okay, whatever, we'll keep, doing. It's like they want to be able to keep up and not feel like they kind of just get relegated to the sidelines. So that's a large percentage of our gym.
Have they lifted before that avatar as is a strength trainer? Because I really am going / gone through the same thing with my wife, where she's a lifetime gymnast, but the idea of free weights or barbells, like squatting with a barbell, until we started dating, wasn't a part of what she did, but now it's what she does every time. Like RDLs, deadlifts, and squats are her absolute favorite. And she always thought, bulk. This isn't, I'm going to be huge. And it's like, no, trust me, like this will make your body look better than you ever have.
Right.
But, and so now we're doing this intro, like 6-hour introduction to weightlifting for women in our garage. And oh, well, it's not for women. It's just intro to weightlifting. But we think that a lot will be exactly the same avatar that you have, where it's women who know that there are benefits, and there are massive benefits to strength training and free weights, but they just never had a easy, safe, non-judgmental, without everybody looking and somebody moving with them slow enough, not trying to upsell them to a personal training package where they can just relax for 6 hours and learn it. So we started doing that, and we had one person one Sunday, and she loved it. And it was so much fun for me to do, because for me, it's not pressure. I used to do that, used to give the free session as a personal trainer. And then that was your opportunity to like sell them. I knew nothing about sales, nothing about marketing. And I know that there's that weird feeling when you walk into let's say a 24-hour fitness or something, where you go, as soon as somebody talks to you, you go, this person wants me to buy personal training. Like, no, don't give me a tour of the gym. I can find everything I need to find. Like, no, I don't hold my ID. I don't want to meet with you after this. I want to work out and I want to leave. Thanks. So anyway.
I would say it's kind of split. Like some of them are maybe like, I would say 2/3 or so, probably almost no experience at all lifting, maybe even like 3/4, like no experience with any type of strength training.
So you're doing God's work.
Yeah. I mean, those are some of the most rewarding. Like, it's so cool to see them just like so excited of like, wow, like I picked up that sandbag. Like I never thought I could even, like when I first walked in, like I couldn't even pick up the one that was half its size. We do a lot of stuff with sandbags. And so they get so excited about that, or like, wow, I was able to like push press, this much. And I couldn't even pick that up off the ground, originally. Like just, and it's like when someone first starts training, there's this like curve of like, so it's just, their strength gains are, you're a lot when you haven't really done anything before. And it's super rewarding to see that, and their confidence go up too. Like because then they'll tell us stuff that happens, with them in, everyday life. It's like, we had to help, my friend load all her plants into the car, and I had the biggest pot, with the tree in it, and I put it in the back of the truck, and I need any help. And you're like, yeah, there you go. So yeah, that's the definition of functional fitness, right? Go to be able to use it in everyday life. So
I was able to pull my son and my daughter apart and hold them in the air.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So some of them, and then you have a few that were athletes. Like you said, it is interesting with gymnasts. That seems to be a very common thing. Like for the most part, gymnasts don't do a whole lot of strength training. So we have some that were like gymnasts and stuff where it was kind of like, oh, okay, I've been a very high level athlete, but not necessarily strength training. And then a few that have like some experience, and with them, it's often like, hey, I went and tried to go back to the gym, and like things just did not feel right. Like everything felt different, and I lost my confidence, and I just need someone, to kind of walk alongside me and, just help me to build that back and feel safe again to, be able to lift heavy. We had like one lady that, she was an athlete in college. I can't remember exactly what she did, but you can just tell she's naturally strong, but she was always in pain. Like just different things would just set it off. And so we did a lot of work with her on like just strengthening her core, and just, she knew we weren't going to push her to a place. We didn't have anything. We had no ego to get her to a certain place by a certain time. It was like, hey, we're going to take this at the pace that you need to build your confidence back up. And you're going to get the little wins along the way. And then those are going to turn into bigger wins and bigger wins. And, eventually you start to see like she was a good athlete and not like a naturally strong person. She just needed to be able to get that confidence back and to be able to move without pain again so that she could do some of that stuff. And then she was like, doing farmer carries and stuff with, hundreds of pounds. And you're like, okay, cool. There you go. It's back.
People forget that those farmer carries are so much better than like hanging oblique moves or lying like side crunches. It's like just carry something heavy in one hand or the other or both, and that will be better for your abs and obliques than any amount of crunches that you could possibly do. I love
I mean, that's my son. He's always like, he goes, I want to get like my core, he does like tricking and stuff. And he's like, I want to get my core stronger. And there's the part of it too, he's like, and I want to see the definition. And I'm like, all right. I was like, but do the carries and stuff like that other stuff. Like you can get that. I was like, but if you just want to be like strong, like there's a reason like farmers are strong, like there's that farmer strong reference, like they're just carrying heavy objects around all the time, and like there's no substitute for that. Like that's like real life work. There is just pick up something heavy and move it from point A to point B. It's simple.
Don't look like Arnold. They're strong, right? They're not bulky, they're not big, they're just strong, and it does come from lifting or moving heavy things on a regular basis.
So that's our avatar for the classes. We have, a wide variety of people, but I think that's the most common one. And personal training, it's a little bit different. I would say that is more, it's interesting. We have probably like younger people who, I feel the younger people, a lot of times it's, again, they don't maybe have, they're like young working professionals that maybe don't have a background in athletics. And so they kind of want to invest something into that for themselves and kind of start to explore that and see what they're actually capable of. And then the other is people that are maybe a little more established that have, the ability to drop some money to do some personal training regularly. So sometimes they're like retired professionals. Sometimes it's people who are a little more elderly that are like, hey, you know what, my doctor told me I need to like be working out, and maybe that, again, maybe not the confidence to just go into a gym and start to do some stuff. So they're like, okay, I want to make sure they're gonna take care of me, make sure I stay safe, and get me healthier. So that would, I say, in our area, because I feel like it's very dependent on area too, but that's what we've seen on the personal training side have been the most common client avatar on the personal training side.
Nice. All right, last few questions. You ready?
Yep.
This is a tough one, but most people know it pretty quick. What are your weaknesses as a CEO? As the boss of the company, what do you think your biggest personal weakness is?
So on this one, I kind of alluded to it earlier. is, I think, being able to be decisive and like make like a hard decision quickly. I'm a person that, like I said, I like to research and do, I like to have my data to like back me up, which there's nothing wrong with that, I don't think, within reason. But there are times when you're, CEO of a business, like something comes up, whether it's an opportunity or it's a problem, and you just got to decide. And yeah, I hate that. Like I can do it, but it does cause me a lot of anxiety where I'm just like, okay, like this has to happen. Like I don't just, it's like, I know it has to happen. So you make the decision, but man, it just always, it's a trickier one for me. If it's something I have like previous experience in, I feel like I'm like, okay, I've dealt with this situation before. It's okay. But if it's something like new coming out of the woodwork, I'm like, well, never dealt with this.
Is that like hiring? Is that like choosing new software? In what versions of that decision making do you usually get stuck in? Because for me, I don't even look at software anymore. I have a guy. I go, go ahead, test it, and then give me your answers. And then Matt, he recently sent an email. He goes, hey, I'm not sure. I go, nope. The right way to send me an email is, these are the top 3 things I found. I'm choosing this because it has this advantages. If you want to look and make another decision, you're welcome. I'm going to go forward with it tomorrow. I go, if that should be 100% your template for sending me an email when I give you a project. And he made a very quick fix on that. And I was like, great. Because, if I can trust you to just make those decisions, but I know that you've at least looked at multiple and you have reasons why you're picking it and why you're not picking the others. If I need to butt in at that moment, then I will. But most often I'm like, all right, good. Somebody's making a decision and they're moving forward. So what types of decisions do you get stuck on the most?
I think it would probably be ones where there's probably going to be like a significant investment of resources. So anytime it comes, it's like, oh, okay, cool. That's like, if it's something that feels like it's going to be a bigger like financial risk. And not that we should necessarily be making those decisions like a snap decision anyway, but it can be to a point where I'm like, I'll draw it out and I'll draw it out. Like at some point you hit a point, it's like, okay, you don't need any more data. And now you're just kind of like stalling, trying to figure out like, is there one more reason I can come up with to not take action? Or, and so I know that is a tendency for me to like, if there's the big scary decision, to kind of want to put it off. And, I think the excuse I give myself is I want more information before doing it. And, sometimes you just gotta like, okay, there isn't really any more information there. It's time to pull the trigger and make a decision one way or the other.
It's funny. We tell clients and customers that, right? Where it's like, what more information could you possibly have, and how much longer are you going to deliberate and wait for improving in some way, wait for some forward movement before you make a decision? Because the longer you take to decide, the slower you are to actually move forward. You just gotta make the call and just go. We were buying a rocking chair for our daughter who could arrive any day. And
congratulations. I know you guys it's coming up soon.
Thank you. But the whole rocking chair situation was, I didn't want to do it on Amazon. And I said, we're getting it today. Like, we're testing. And even if something is 90% of what I want or 80% of what I want, we're buying it then, because I'm not making a second shopping trip. I'm not losing another 6-7 hours driving out to stores, sitting in stores, doing the delivery, doing the credit card thing. I go, that is going to kill any of my time efficiency. So even if something's like 4/5 of the way to what I want it now, I go, okay, done, move it, go forward, next thing. And to me, an 80% now is better than 100% a month from now.
Yeah. And I've had to really force myself to get closer and closer to that, where I'm like, okay, I've got, like you said, 80% of, it's like, I can tell, that's enough data to make a decision. Like, let's go ahead and move forward. But it's not my natural inclination, for sure. I'm a salesperson's worst nightmare. I'm like, it's like whenever I would like come up with strategies with working with a person, like on a sale, I'm like, okay, if I told myself this, what would my response be? So So I normally did well with people that were like me because I'd be like, oh, okay, yeah, I know how you're just going to try to put me off and put me off, aren't you?
Yeah. Yeah. And you're not making, it's not like a rush decision. It's it's not like one of these crazy things. It's, you know, that there are multiple good options, and sure,
Yeah.
one's the best, but the slower you are to make that move, it's
Yeah.
you just have to move
Yeah.
forward and then figure out the problems, because no matter what you choose, no matter what you choose, there's going to be problems with that. Right.
Yeah.
So you're always going to have to figure out some sort of do some sort of problem solving. So you're just
Yeah.
really delaying forward movement.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Last question is, if money were no object, what person or role would you hire? What superpower person or role would you hire right now that you think would have the best and biggest effect on your company?
I think would probably be like a manager administrator for the gym that could just handle like all of the current customer issues, billing issues, all the, handle the accounting, like basically any of that, like back, the administrative stuff that happens on the back end. They could just like, hey, I've got this. Like, even if they didn't do every single bit of it themselves, but like they were making sure that those things were happening, and that would just be a load off of my mind. To me, I'm more suited to do like working on the promotional part of it, like marketing and sales. And I love to coach, so I still would like to be coaching to some degree, but yeah, like someone who's that, because I'm not that is my other, I thought about saying details as a CEO, but I'm honestly, to me, I'm like, CEO shouldn't be too bogged down really in the details. But that's not, as somebody starting a new business up, that is tricky because I still had to be like in all of the paperwork details and all that, and that is not my thing. I when I worked for the auto dealership, I was doing commercial sales, and they let us put together our own deals, and I may or may not have gotten called multiple times by the finance department being like, why isn't this paper in here? And why didn't you? I'm like, how do I miss that every time? I'm like, I know it. I thought I put it in there. They're like, oh, it's still not in here. I'm like, okay. So at some point I realized, I was like, I always had this mindset, like I can be good at anything if I just keep working at it. And I was like, that's not one of my strengths. That's not, I'll be happy to admit now. It's like that type of like just paperwork, record keeping all the I's dotted and the T's crossed on that stuff is not my strong suit. Big picture stuff and like planning stuff for the future. It's like I can do that, and I can come up with that stuff. But yeah, that would be my one. Is like someone who's really good at that can help fill in for where I have that weakness of
Does
for
that person need
myself.
to be on site, or could they be 100% as successful as you want them to be, if they were they're in person or remote? Because I know that we've hired a lot of remote people, but now I know,
Mm-hmm.
whatever all these remote people businesses are trying to claim, if we were in the same room every day, for 4 days in a row, we would crush. But because it's difficult
Yeah.
to keep getting everybody to meet and to collaborate, and then you're a phone call away instead of shouting across the room to say like,
Right.
hey, how did you do this? Hey, do we have this video? Like, it would
Yeah.
be so much easier. So I know now that I
I
really
agree.
want to focus more on getting people from LA onto our team.
Yeah.
But what about you?
No, I agree. I think a lot of it can be done remotely, but just also too, again, going back to like all the relationships and stuff too, like if someone's going to be kind of doing the admin stuff, in a gym, a lot of times if you tell someone like, oh yeah, so-and-so will adjust your membership for you or whatever, it's like, cool. But when there's like a person actually there, that's a face that's like there at the desk that you can just walk up to when you're done with your class and be like, hey, could you make this change for me? I'm gonna be on vacation for a couple of weeks. Can I use my annual pause for that time or whatever? Rather than be like, oh, I got to send them an email or get onto the app and give them a message or call them. Like it's just or they tell me and then I have to do it. Like it's just to have to be like, oh yeah, talk to Susie over there. Like she's got you. She'll take care of you. Like it's just, I think it's a better experience. So it's not that it can't be done. Um, But yeah, I would prefer to have someone in person. And I do like working face to face with people. Like that's just, I don't know. That's me. I guess I'm old fashioned that way, but I do like that face to face. Like, hey, you're like you said, you're right there. Let's just talk about this, figure it out real quick. Okay, cool. You can go on and do what you're doing, and I'll do what I'm doing.
Cool. So if you guys are in LA and you are super organized, love to like make sure things get done and neat and detail oriented, and you like that type of work, that's a need. Reach out. Hey, go ahead. Matt, I always tell everybody, especially I was just telling my brother the other day, I go, I know these are the type of people that you want or that you wish you had. When's the last time you posted to your email list or to your social media that said, is anybody really good at this and would love to work for our company and what we do? And I always get no less than 10 people reach out to me anytime I post a job opportunity.
Really?
Oh, 100%.
I've seen you do it. I've seen you put those posts up. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's you
Oh, that's
hire
good.
from the
Sometimes you just
people
need
who
people
know
to
what
talk
you're
to.
about.
Yeah.
Like if they know what you're about already, that's half of the training. Instead of going on like Indeed.com or something where you just you get like all these strangers who know nothing about you, and then you got to explain it more. If somebody's been in my classes, they know 60% of what they need to know. So we're already set. They're already in the community. So I usually prefer to hire from within my community. It's a better way. And then, people forget that they just hope that somebody's going to land on their plate. And they forget that some people just enjoy doing that. And pretty much all of my hires have always been on a tryout basis or hey, I've got this project. It should take somebody who knows how to do it like 10 hours. I'm willing to pay this amount of money, $100 for it. Could you do it? And then if they do it and they communicate with me well, I go, huh, you want to try to take another one? I'll pay you 200 for this one. And then they do that. And then we keep moving forward. And that's how like my little messages on Instagram or on my email list, that's how we gain our full-time people, is through those little tiny project recommendations. So anytime I'm looking at a project, I go, let me put a post out to see if anybody is interested that wants to do this. And today I'm going to put an ad out for a Google Ads person, another advertisement, because we lost our Facebook ads due to a hack. And I'm like, okay, well, we should have been running Google Ads anyway. So now time to get that up and running.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's cool. I know people do that for coaches too, where they'll.
I think something I learned was always have a help wanted sign. No matter what your roles are, always say we're hiring, because you never know what rock star walks in and you're like, oh, you can do that and that and that and that just because you said, hey, I'm single and looking. Somebody walks up.
Yeah. Yep. Definitely.
Nice. All right. So Matt, tell us a little bit about your gym, where you're located, and how people can get in touch with you. I'd like to know the name, the neighborhoods, what the next steps are, and if anybody does want that job or they want to learn from you and they want to become empowered through weightlifting and really get their technique on point and feel confident and good with their bodies, how are they going to find you?
Yep. So name of our gym is Stout Heart Fitness. We're in Palmdale, California. And as far as we're on Instagram as Stout Heart Fitness. You can also search Stout Heart Fitness on Facebook. Our website is, so it's STOUT, and then heart, the normal way you'd spell heart, HEART, and fitness. So when we spell it out for the name of our company, we put a dash between the stout and the heart, but don't do that on the web addresses or Instagram. So,
cool.
So that's, you can find us on both those platforms. Our website is stoutheartfitness.com. And get in touch with us. And like I said, we do the classes and personal training. And we always tell people, is like, come on by, and you don't have to sign up for anything. You just come by and meet us. And we love talking with people. And we really do want to know that people are going to be a good fit, that we're going to be a good fit for them, and that they're a good fit for us. Like if they come in, they're like, man, this resonates with me, the type of training that you guys do. then that's cool. But we're not looking to try to sell people who walk in. They're like, yeah, this is, I'm not gonna try to force it on someone that they're like, I don't even think this is what I'm looking for. Like we want to make sure we're connected with people that it's really what they're looking to do, and that's where they'll have success, and we'll have success working with them. So
awesome. Great. Well, we're going to include all of those links in the show notes. So guys, just make sure you are looking underneath the video and you can click and go right there. And if you're in the Palmdale, California area, and or, I mean, Matt said that he wants 100% somebody to do a bunch of the admin work for the fitness center there in person, but he might be looking for a short-term solution. So even if you're out there and you're looking and you know that you can do that job at a fantastic level, then go ahead and reach out. Maybe it's a short-term solution that becomes a long-term solution. So I would say just go for it, no matter what.
Yep.
All right, Matt.
All right, Mark. Thanks for having me on. We appreciate it. It was a good, fun conversation.
Yeah, man, you're easy to talk to. That was great. It was once we met, I was like, this is a really easy conversation. Like right away, I said, all right, let's get a podcast. If we can talk for this long, like this quick, let's get a podcast. So I appreciate your time, and I hope everybody looks out for you. And good luck in the entrepreneur journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
All right, have a good one.